Ready, Coach?
I was trying to see if I could.
Go ahead.
Trying to see if I can find it. Trying to share, but I didn't
You
see
have
it.
to click on the little icon, and you'll see it right there. All right. Well, welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. Just wrapped up player interviews here at Westminster Lafayette. And, Coach, phenomenal group that I just got to talk to. What's your thoughts on how they represented your program?
They did a good job. I was proud of them. You never know whenever you have young men that age and they're on camera and it's live and you're asking questions. You're kind of holding your breath every time you ask a question because you're not really sure. But they did a good job and they're well spoken, and so I was proud of them.
Yeah, great group, and I'm sure an even better group on the football field. And Coach, this is we got to say hello at the 707, but this is the first time we've got a chance to meet, and I want to say thank you for the opportunity to come down here to talk a little ball with you.
Absolutely, man. We love what you guys do, and big supporters, and just very appreciative for what you guys do for high school football and high school sports in general. So thank you for coming.
Coach, before we talk Charger football, can I ask you a question about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you, Coach? When did you get into coaching, or why did you get into coaching, I guess we could say?
Yeah, my family, I have a long history of coaches. My grandpa is in the High School Baseball Hall of Fame in Indiana. I didn't get right into it out of college, but always had a calling for it. And about 12 years ago or so, had my first coaching job at Como High School under Coach Doug Dotson. He was my first coach I worked under. I was there for a few years. Then I had an opportunity to go work under Coach Ted Davison at Acadiana High School. Worked under him. Yeah, the legend, the best to ever do it. In my opinion, there's no argument there. He's the greatest. So definitely was thankful for that opportunity. And then had the opportunity to come. Last year was my first year here at Westminster. I was offensive coordinator and athletic director at Acadiana. Had an opportunity to be part of great coaching staff there. Worked under Coach Matt McCullough for several years. That's a really good friend of mine. But really just got to be part of some great coaches and learn how to do it the right way. And last year had the opportunity. God brought me here, I felt like, and was leading me here. And get a chance to start up. There's not many opportunities where you get to start your own program, and so it was really unique. And glad I made that decision, and excited to be here and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, the experience that you can bring from Acadiana. It seems like Acadiana, there's coaches that really move on and go and become head coaches from over there, or big time coordinators. So it's a school and it's a program that has put out a lot of great coaches, a lot of great football players, and some big time championships.
Absolutely. I love Acadiana. I played there, graduated from there. So love that school and always wish them the best. And I still keep in touch with all those coaches. And I talk to Coach Peters all the time at Carencro now. And, talk to Coach Dotson, who's the head coach now. I still talk to Coach McCullough a ton, Coach Romero, Coach Sebo, all those guys. Like I said, Coach Davison, I could name a ton. I'm sure I forgot a bunch, but just great coaches there. And the number one thing there is the culture and the identity. And when I came here, that was the number one thing that I knew we had to establish early on was create a culture and create an identity of what this football program, what the school is going to be. So.
And a couple stops along the way, what were some things that you took from each stop that you wanted to bring here?
Yeah, the Como stop early on was, just kind of learning how to do it and realizing how much I loved to actually coach and pour into these young men. There's nothing like Friday night, I've been in some different professions and made much more money than you do as a coach. But just being able to be under those lights on Friday night and pour into these young men each and every day, there's just nothing like it. So just learning that early on at Como, and then again working for Coach Dotson and learning some things from him there. And at Acadiana, the list is probably too long to the things I learned from Coach Davison about how he ran the program and how he created culture and the accountability that he demanded of his players and coaches, working with young coaches like Coach Peters, super talented coaches, Coach McCullough, obviously, Coach Dotson, just really trying to, nobody runs the Veer like Acadiana, right? And, when Coach Bill Dotson put it in place, 40 years ago, whatever it was, a lot of people try to do it, but being able to grow up in that system and learn that system, there's not a lot of people that know the Veer at the level that a lot of Acadiana coaches do, and just thankful for that opportunity, and just happy and blessed that I get to keep it alive and keep it moving.
The Westminster Lafayette job, when did that become a reality? When did that become say, hey, this may happen?
It was I was in the middle of the we were on our it was the year, my last year at Acadiana. It was the year we went to a state championship game and lost to Catholic High Baton Rouge in the Dome, and kind of along that path, I started getting people reach out to me and contact me, and just to gauge my interest level, and I knew that I wanted to decide. My son was going to be heading into high school, so I knew I needed to decide one way or the other. Either wherever I was gonna be, I wanted to be somewhere that he was gonna be able to spend his whole high school and not have to jump around. So really prayed on it and talked to my wife, and then met with Dr. Ray Casey, who was the head of school at the time here, and we kind of talked. And funny part is, I was at the Catholic High Baton Rouge game, and I was at the Carr game, semifinal game. And we're coaching, and it was an intense game, and we had to drive. It was like an 8-minute drive to seal that game out, and we won that game. And I got down and said a prayer, and got on my knee and said a prayer, and then I stood up, and there was Dr. Casey. He shook my hand, told me great job, and he said, so it was kind of a cool moment that he came and he kind of surprised me and came and watched. He joked later on that was my job interview, but that was just kind of the moment there, and then in the interview process. So it was just after that season, I just decided that it was time for me to move on, and this was just such a cool opportunity to come to a place that I loved. My wife had been a teacher here, my kids had been to school here, so this was a place that's always been close to my heart.
So when you got here at Westminster, how quickly did you turn on the film, and what were some things that stood out to you, and some things that you said, we got some work to do?
Yeah, I mean, right away, I got access to the Huddle account, and started looking back at, the guys that were before me. And look, all due respect to the people that were here before me, they started the program and they had nothing, So respect to those guys. But I knew that it was a different type of football than I played and that I wanted to coach. They were very, they didn't have much physicality, no weight program. Didn't tackle very much, if at all, at practice, and I could tell in games that those were things that they didn't like. They didn't want to be physical, and they just wanted to spread it out and that kind of thing. And so I knew right away that in order for us to be successful, that we were going to have to change a bunch. But it all starts in the weight room and actually becoming more physical to play that type of football.
And that's been our number one topic when we were talking to the guys. It came up over and over again because of how important it was for them this year and last year. How about yourself? You're here. Did you have to tone it back, knowing that, okay, I've been at this level, weight room, Veer, championships. Now, did you have to bring it back some and realize, okay, I have to start with them also?
Yeah, I honestly, I probably went the other route. I probably, I demanded pretty early on from that team and that class that they were going to have to come up, right? They were going to have to come meet me up here. And man, and look, I sat in there in my first team meeting with the football team, and I told them all, I said, whenever we do, because I believe we'll win a state championship here. I don't just say that. I truly believe we'll win a state championship here.
That first player meeting, you got to address him.
And I told them that, and I said, every player here is going to get a state championship ring. You might not be on that team, but because you guys bought into my culture and what I was doing, I'm going to purchase every one of you guys a state championship ring, because without that group and without the buy-in that they had from me and what I was doing and all the changes, then we would not have the success we had last year, and what the success we'll have in the future. So they really, I love that group, that senior group, and really that whole entire team. I'll never forget them.
What was the toughest part of the first transition year, in your opinion? We know the weight room. Offensive linemen were just pass blocking, and you come bring in a veer offense. Was it something in that nature where you had to change the offensive line, or is it something different that really stands out to you? Toughest part of the transition year?
There was a couple things. One is when I got here, we didn't have a coaching staff, right? So last year, whenever we started the season, none of our coaches that ended up coaching with us had ever coached a high school football game before.
Okay.
So it was really doing a lot of mentoring of coaches last year. I was able to hire some guys that, the guy that coaches our offensive line now, he played with me at Acadiana, so he understood, that. Guy that runs our defense played with me at Acadiana, right? So I brought some Acadiana guys with me. They hadn't coached before, but I knew they could do it, and they wanted to coach. And then we had some guys here that were here that had not really been part of a culture that they need to, and they bought in. The coaches bought in. They loved it. So that was step one, was to kind of get our coaches lined up, because that was the scariest part when I first got here. I'm like, man, I don't have a staff. So you got to put a staff together. And then it's all about instilling your drill work. Like we do, the thing about, when I was at Acadiana or whether being here, when you run this offense, it's not about being fancy. It's not about doing like all these things. It's about being really good at what you do and trusting in that. And so we do the same drill work every single day. They come out there, they get on the boards, they do their shoot drills and all those things, do their board drills. And that is an everyday, like we don't put on a helmet, we don't practice if the linemen aren't worrying about flatbacks, driving off the football, all of those things that they need to be good. Because if we're not good up front, we can be great in the backfield and we can do all these things, but we're only going to get so far if we're going to be good, which is, like I tell our kids, our goal every year is to win the whole thing. Whether or not it's, you have different years where some teams are capable. Even when I was at Acadiana, we knew that, okay, this team is capable of winning a state, but our goal was always to win a state championship. And that's what I tell our kids. And if you're going to be able to do that, you have to be good up front. So we focus on both sides, offensively and defensively. The line is the most important thing, and everything kind of goes off of that.
So we talked about you coming in and having to figure out the staff. Let's fast forward, 2025 season. Introduce your coaching staff.
Absolutely. And first thing is we got to bring everybody back, right? So,
good.
So the staff is complete, which is good. So we have first guy, Coy Duyon. He coaches our offensive line and helps me with our run game and that kind of thing. And he's able to help me draw things up, because the difference is coming from offensive coordinator. When the defense is on the field, you can go talk to the offense. But as a head coach, you have to stay engaged, manage the game. So he's able to see things and draw things up and blocking schemes and things like that we're messing up during the game. Mike Bro, he runs our defense and he calls our defense for us. He coaches linebackers and some secondary. Kevin Delahousie is another offensive line coach. Does a ton for him. He coaches some D-line as well. Jason Hebert is now on staff, which is cool. We didn't have anybody on staff. We only had one coach on staff, which was, but we hired Coach Jason Hebert this year. He was a CCP last year, but he's on staff now. He coaches D-line, and he helps me with the running backs and quarterbacks. And then Coach Lorenzo Neville, who's our head basketball coach here, but he coaches DBs and receivers for us. So not a huge staff, but the way we run practice is different here. We're able to manage with a smaller staff. We don't have a bigger team. So.
What qualities do you look for when you're assembling your staff?
Buy-in, just buy-in. That's the biggest thing. Having coaches that believe in what you're trying to get across. Anytime I've been a part of staffs that had some turmoil, it's because you had some, certain things where coaches just weren't bought into the process, or weren't bought into the overall goal set. And I luckily and thankfully I've been part of some great staffs where we didn't have a lot of that, so that's why we had so much success. But having coaches that are just bought in, we can take a coach and mold him, and he might not know a ton, but if he's willing to learn and buy in, I can teach him drill work, and then they can eventually start learning scheme, and start being able to help more and more on Friday nights. Friday nights for young coaches is fast, right? Everything is, so that comes with experience. You can't really teach that, but you can teach everything else, but coaches got to be willing to buy in.
Let's go back to the playoff game at Opelousas Catholic.
Yes, sir.
Your biggest takeaways from the night, how soon did you get back to work? And it seems like type of coach where you haven't got much sleep since that match.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I got back to work the next day.
Okay.
I broke the film down, and it has been the thorn in my side the entire off season. I haven't, it's been the driving factor, and I think all coaches and you're always you need something, and to be honest with you, you need something that's going to motivate you to work.
Correct.
The hours that you work, and it's been easy this off season because of that game. The takeaway was we weren't quite ready. We didn't know how to win. I think that was the biggest thing. We had, and I tried to, it was 27-7 at halftime. Our kids had never been to the playoffs,
First trip. Yeah.
First trip there, and, they thought it was done, and Opelousas Catholic is extremely explosive offensively. They play hard, and I knew it wasn't over. They were getting the ball back first. And our kids, I think, just kind of settled a little bit, and then they came out and scored early, quick, and then we went 3 and out, and they scored again. And all of a sudden it's 27-21, and now everybody's like, getting nervous, and the players had never been there before.
Yeah.
So, and it ended up being a battle. We came back, and the biggest thing is we had to learn, and I think that helped though. I think that's gonna look. I believe you have to lose before you can win, and I think that loss helped season some of our players, and now they know that you can't take your foot off the pedal until the job's done. So that was a big takeaway. And it's kind of been a driving force of this team all year, all summer, off season.
Guys go on to play other sports because of the smaller program. When you did get the guys back as a whole, I know strength was a big thing when you got them back. What were some other areas that you said we have to fix?
Speed, obviously strength and speed kind of tie in, but if you got to get faster, and we didn't have a ton of time to work on speed. That's we have a baby track program, I call it, and I think if you're going to be a good football team, you're gonna win big, you got to have a really good track program. I think they kind of go hand in hand. So that's going to be something that in the future we continue to develop and get more players running track. But speed's obviously big, and then also just scheme. Look, it's people think the veer is easy, right? They think it's just dive right, dive left, but the veer is a complex offense, and there's a ton of little wrinkles and things that we're able to do, and we weren't able to even install the complete veer last year, right? I didn't have the time to do that, starting in June, and throughout the season we got more and more, but just being able to schematically install more of the offense through the off season, and so I think we're going to be able to start in the spring. In the fall, and be way ahead there. So just that strength, speed, but also schematically, I think we'll be much further along.
New quarterback going into 2025. What have you seen from him that really stands out?
Yeah, it's it's been a competition, and I challenged a couple guys to and look, it'll be a continuous competition.
Okay.
Obviously, but he's the leader right now, and but things can change when we put pads on, and things you never know. But as of right now, he's really stepped up. What I love about Zaid is that from even say the other day at the 7-on-7, from game 1 to game 4, he improved, right? So he takes coaching extremely well. We all tell our players all the time, you can't be soft. You can't be soft if you want to play for me, because we're going to explain how it is, and you have to be able to take constructive criticism and not take it, and especially at the quarterback position, and so that's the biggest thing with him, is he's kind of nonchalant about that he can take criticism and learn from it, and because it's really not criticism, it's just coaching, and so that's the biggest thing for him. He's super talented. He's 6'3", 175 pounds. He's a 3-sport athlete, can throw the football, can run with the football. Our quarterbacks have to be able to run. you know, in our offense, we're not going to have a pocket passer ever. You know, there's always going to be an athletic quarterback, but he can run. He's athletic, can throw the football, and we also don't need quarterbacks that can throw it 70 yards down the field. They just have to be able to know the reads, have to be smart players, and he's been able to check all the boxes so far. You know, so hopefully, you know, when we put the pads on, he keeps doing that. And but I think the players are, you know, he shows up, he works every day, and I think the players are bought into it as well.
Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of your production in the backfield is back here in 2025?
Correct. Yeah, we had.
So let's go to that.
Mm-hmm.
Three-headed monster in the backfield. What is something about each one of them that really stands out?
Yeah, they all are a little different, you know, which is cool. You know, Ethan Seymour last year was our, you know, workhorse. He first team all district. I think he was 850 yards or so. He was our leader. He hits the hole extremely hard, and in our offense you have to hit it quick. And he's, you know, some backs are scared to do that, and he's not. You know, not extremely big, but he plays big. You know what I mean? So that's his biggest thing is how hard he plays and how hard he hits the hole. You know, he's a junior, and then we have a senior, Gavin Abear. He's our most elusive guy. You know, he's really good in space. You know, he can make you miss. I think he said it in an interview against Opelousas Catholic. He took kickoff back for, I think, a 65-yard touchdown, and then he, you know, popped a sweep for another 60-yard touchdown. And then he gassed out, and he fumbled the ball. But he's explosive, right? And you know, so, you know, looking forward to him. And then the other guys are freshmen. You know, Pierce Gable, and he played last year as an 8th grader. Had our longest run of the year. You know, we kind of protected him a little bit as an 8th grader, you know, but he catches the ball probably better than all of them. He's him and Gavin are, you know, both our two fastest backs, but he's 6 foot 205 pounds as well. So he's a big dude, and I think he's going to be tough to tackle in open space, you know, with corners getting on him, and he hits the hole pretty hard as well. Still learning that aspect, but he's just such a big back, you know, so but he can run. So that's another thing with him. So they all do something a little different, but they're all explosive and can take it to the house at any time. I'm excited about our backfield. You know.
Absolutely. Coach, let's go to the receiver room real quick. I got to ask you, when you go to come here and you know they're running the spread, how do you get them to understand now you're going into a role and the mental part of that game? How do you get them, or did you get them to understand, yeah, they ran spread before, but we're coming in and you got to be the best blockers on the team, and whenever it matters the most, we're coming to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a concern, you know, but I think the experience at Acadiana was huge with that, because you have a ton of athletes at Acadiana, that guys that could be really good receivers, you know, that ended up being college DBs or college safeties, that kind of thing, because they ended up moving to the defensive side of the ball. Here they have to play both ways. But what we did last year was, you know, our best receiver when I got here was David Beasley, right? He was the guy that, you know, wants to play college football and that kind of thing. And my first conversation with him was, hey, man, I need you to play quarterback, right? You know, and kind of talked to him. And then we took some receivers and made them running backs, you know. So just kind of making sure we still want to get the ball in your hands, but we took some of those guys. And then the other guys, look, the most undervalued and underpraised, you know, besides the offensive line, but even those guys get some praise. A wide receiver in our offense, like you said, is the difference between a touchdown and a 10-yard gain, right? So we work that, and we value that extremely. And our guys work their butts off blocking, and they know how important it is, and they know. But also we have some really good athletes, you know, and they can go make catches, and they do, and we expect them to be able to do that. You know, people think that we don't like to necessarily throw the football. That's not necessarily the case. It's just we would prefer to control the clock. But if we have to throw it, the playbook is extensive enough where we can go make plays, and we have receivers that can do damage. I mean, you saw Luke that was here. He'll play DB and receiver. You know, we have, you know, Zaid was a receiver last year, but he's quarterback now. Aiden Delcom, one of the guys that is competing for quarterback, plays receiver. Abe Lemoyne. Dre Green. We have a bunch of guys that can all run. You know, we have a ton of guys that are sub 4.7 guys, which is hard to believe, you know. but we can run this year, and I'm excited. But we got some playmakers, but they know they got to be able to block on the edge if you want to get on the field. So,
Coach, you come from a background where offensive line's king, and you see the big bodies. And you come here, you got it. One guy over 200 pounds. Now everyone's over that weight. Offensive line. What has been the I guess the teaching pool there, and the biggest step that needed to be taken to them? Was it scheme? Was it technique? Was it weight room for them? What was it? Mental?
Yeah, I think look, I love the offensive. I'll be honest with you. I tell my players this all the time. My favorite players on the whole team are the offensive linemen. That's what I played at Acadiana. That's my first position group was offensive line coaching. They make everything go, and but it's hard to play there if you physically aren't developed enough to play there. So one, we had to get bigger and stronger there. Because we were just undersized last year, and it's hard to block a 250-pound guy if you're 180 pounds. Look, we don't come from the system even at Acadiana where I don't need necessarily a 300-pound offensive lineman. We just need guys that have some size, that can move and get good pad level. On top of the strength, though, is about continuing the process to teach technique and pad level. It's all about low guy wins and firing off the ball, and learn how to do that takes some time. Doesn't just happen in a year. Typically, you have longer to teach kids how to do it before they're varsity players. At a smaller school, we don't have that advantage, so they have to kind of learn on the fly. So I think that's been the biggest thing, but I'm expecting our offensive line this year to be tremendously better, and they're going to be and on top of that, with our backs that we have, I think our offense has a chance to be pretty explosive.
There you go. Let's go to the other side of the football. What's those conversations like right now with the defensive coordinator? What's some things that make y'all excited for this year's group?
Just our speed. That's the thing, it's just our team speed in the secondary. Again, it all starts up front, and we have a 7-man rotation of D linemen, which is pretty rare at a smaller school. We have 7 guys and they're going to have to rotate in because we don't rotate on the offensive line. So if you play offensive line, you play offensive line. Some of those guys start on defense as well, but we have to give them a break on defense some because we can't take them on offense just because of scheme and learning the plays and that kind of thing. So we have 7 guys that'll rotate on that D line, which is good, and it's a luxury to have at a smaller school. Our linebackers can run, and they're tough, and they're big, and they're physical. And then on the back end, it's the same thing. We can run. We'll be able to cover. But we have some guys that will come up and tackle as well, which is always a question mark in the secondary. Do guys want to come up and tackle? And that's what makes a team, kind of separates a team. So we're excited. We just want to play fast on defense and create some pressure and try to create some turnovers. And I think, like the guy said in the interview, we preach that we want turnovers because if we get the ball back, hopefully we can have it for the rest of the quarter. So that's the plan.
Let's go to the third phase of the game. Special teams. Who's handling those duties this year? What have you seen since you've gotten here? Were they a big? I believe they were going for 2 back then. Is that something that you're comfortable with, or you got a good kicker here? What's the details there?
Yeah, we're more situational. We're going to kick extra points if if we get somebody jump off sides and we get in the short yards to get a penalty or something,
we'll go 3 yards.
Yeah, we'll go get our couple. But in general, we're gonna they did do a lot of going for 2 and that kind of thing. We had to kind of be more traditional, and it's going to be a competition for the kicker, punter spots. Kicker, we have a guy we think we can do it. Punter is one of those things that you got to see if somebody's scared to catch the ball when they're getting rushed. So a lot of times we'll put a receiver there, somebody, or even a quarterback there, somebody that's used to handling the ball. But we have Carter Thibodeau will probably be our kicker, finding a deep snapper, make somebody can snap, and all those things are huge. The scariest 2 phases, obviously, in special teams are kickoff, and punt, right? You just want to be able to get the football off and go down and cover, and then on kickoff you want to be able to kick it and cover. We've had trouble last year. We had trouble covering, so we got to really focus on that. This year, covering kicks. VC took one back on us. We gave up some long, where we had to get into a situation where we did more squib kicking, and not give them a chance. And we actually had some success doing that, but you give teams really good field position when you do that. And so we don't want to live by that. It's kind of what we had to do last year. But, at a smaller school, you have guys that play both ways, and they also have to play special teams. So when you having to play all three phases of the game, sometimes it can get really tough. So sometimes, some of those things, that's what got us last year. So it's one of our focus areas, and if we have a chance to take a big leap this year, it's because we're going to be better in those two phases of, punt and kickoff.
Okay. Beauchamp scrimmage, Hamilton Christian Jamboree. Can you give us the locations and dates for that? Also, what do you want to see from your group in those two games?
Absolutely. We got Beauchamp at their place on August 22nd. It's at 6 o'clock, and then we have Hamilton Christian, I think, on the 28th, and that's going to be at Westminster Christian Opelousas at their Jamboree. And I think we're the middle game. I have to check, though. I think we're like the 6 o'clock game. But, Beauchamp is going to be, they play hard, they play physical, and we just want to better execute, especially in the scrimmage. We just want to better come out and can we execute our offense first time playing against somebody else. Just get the snap and get it to the backs and just run the offense. Not try to do anything too fancy. And defensively, we want to see, how guys play whenever they, have some guys trying to block them and those kind of things. So the scrimmage is just trying to feel everything out and, maybe somebody surprises you and just trying to get through that one healthy and getting some good film and some teaching points. And then the Jamboree, I think Hamilton Christian is good. You know what I mean? Yeah. They got some good athletes. Quarterback's good. They have a lot of good players, and that's a test. They were a top 10 team in the state last year in our division, if I remember right. I think they ended there somewhere in the top 10 or close to it. So it's a good challenge for us to come out. And when Coach Porter called me and asked me if I want to hop in that Jamboree and play them, I jumped at the chance because we want to play good teams. We don't want to just get wins and things like that. We want to play good competition, especially early, so we can. It's all about getting good film, right? If you just you want to play teams, win or lose, that you can get some teachable film on and some physicality, and also a team that we may run across later on in the playoffs.
Yeah. Got off to a great start a year ago. How important is it to fast forward and do it again?
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to be a one-hit wonder. So you want to, it's kind of a driving force for, and look, the expectation is, and I'm blessed to have been at the school I was at Acadiana, but the expectation is always to win the game, right? And we want to instill that into this culture and into these players. And we got to come out and we got to duplicate, and actually improve, but the difference is this year we're not sneaking up on anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be expecting us to do what we do, but vice versa. Now we have film on people and what they're going to try to do as well. So that kind of works both ways, And so I'm excited. Look, last year coming in, I didn't know anything about this division. I didn't know any of the teams. I didn't know the players. I didn't know the schemes. Everything was kind of on the fly learning. So we have the advantage that we've been able to study and break stuff down over the off season. But it's big to have a follow up year, and have some success. Do we win 7? Do we win 7 again? That's the goal. We want to win 8. We want to win 10 if we can. Want to make a run in the playoffs. But you want to go week in and week out, play good football. But yeah, the goal is to go out and have another great year.
Coach, I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm asking you anyway. Do you build your scheme around your players or make players fit your system?
We're a system-based team, but there always is some, as a coach, you can within the system. It kind of goes to the fallacy that the veer is just dive right, dive left. When I was at Acadiana and we got Caden DeBetta came in, as a sophomore. You have Russell Babineau. You got Zeke Elliott, Zeke Hippolyte. You got all these guys that are really good. We threw the ball more, you know what I mean? And we found them in space. We did it within our scheme, but all you start doing is attacking different areas because you have different athletes. Okay. So the scheme doesn't have to change. I think that's a lot of thing that people don't understand about the Veer offense is, yes, we want to run the football, but when we have good receivers, the ability to run the football, it forces defenses to have to go one-on-one with those guys. And if we can get those guys, the athletes we have, one-on-one with corners, we feel like we can win that battle a lot. And if we have guys that we consistently think that can win that, we're going to attack it. So that's how we adjust. If we have good players, we can adjust, how we attack the defense. But the scheme is the scheme, and we're going to have our offense installed, and players are going to have their role within that offense.
Do you feel like smaller rosters build closer teams, knowing guys have to step up?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that before I got here, but I definitely know that now, and we've had some close groups, in the past, but at bigger schools, you have a lot more where it's offense and defense relationships, right? So the offense is always together, so they have closer relationships. Defense is always together, they have closer relationships. But the whole team, you might not have those bonds and those friendships and those kind of things. Here, we're going to have 5 or 6 guys that have to play a ton of both ways, and there is no offense and defense. Like when we practice, we have to split practice, so we do offense first for the first half of practice, then we have a special teams period, and then we go defense because we don't have enough players to, split. So they're always together. They're always in some kind of drill together, and they definitely, it definitely builds a closer bond than a bigger program.
What do you think is the most important part in being a leader?
Just they have to know it's not just about winning the game. Part of the reason I came here was to be able to pour into kids about Jesus and disciple into them and teach them how to be young men and young Christian young men, and that winning the game is a byproduct of how hard you work and how you hold yourself accountable, hold your teammates accountable. So I hope that as a leader, they know I love them first and foremost, but I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to demand the best from them. But ultimately, it's not just about winning the game. I love winning the game as much as anybody, but it's not my ultimate end-all, be-all. One day I'm going to finish coaching, and nobody's going to remember any of that, and it's going to be how much was I able to impact young men in the right way and lead them towards Jesus.
Yeah. This group here, when we get into fall, how will you determine if they won the summer or not?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be, do we come out and play physical, right? Do we come out initially and, because what we don't want to create is a bunch of, I call them weight room warriors, right? Guys that are unbelievable in the weight room, and then but when you put pads on, they don't want to hit and that kind of thing. The weight room, we're trying to develop a culture of toughness, not only the physical ability to do it, but it's a toughness thing. And last year we had some guys that were tough football players and became tough football players. This year I think we have even more guys that are ready to, now that's part of what they know. They're not new to it, and I'm hoping that we come out early on, and if we can, and within the first couple weeks of practice, I see that we're playing extremely fast and hard, and I'm starting to see some collisions and those kind of things, because I didn't see that early on last year. It took a while for us to get to that point. If we can see that early on, then I'll know that the culture is kind of being set, and they know the pads are on now, and all that stuff's over. Now it's time to go play some football.
What's something people outside the program might not understand about the process that you're building here?
Look, being at a new school is tough. Creating an identity, a culture. 2 schools with the same name is rare, right? It's not really done, and so fighting that, there's a lot of people in this area that. And I'm talking about the Lafayette, Youngsville area that are just now learning about our school and what we have to offer, and that we have a high school. I think last year helped that a lot. I think it kind of put us on the map. Being in a district and those kind of things help you put you on the map. but it's a challenge whenever you have scheduling issues, you have referees showing up at the wrong field, you have coaches calling the wrong, thinking they scheduled one school and not the other. We've done some things identity-wise, with logos and color schemes and different things like that to kind of differentiate us from the Opelousas campus, but that's been the biggest challenge. It's been more than just coaching. You don't just show up and coach. You have to show up and kind of create a culture on top of the coaching, and that's like part of my job as athletic director as well. So it's wearing both of those hats. But that's the biggest thing. I think people from the outside probably don't see the challenges on a day-to-day basis. Not only that I go through, but our kids have to go through. You know what I mean? And just so that's the biggest thing. And we're hoping the more and more success we have, the more positive things that we do, the more and more that changes.
There you go. What's the biggest challenge your football schedule brings?
Well, we got the defending state champ, so it's always tough when those guys are on there. But we love it, and I told our kids, I said, you should be thankful that you get to play them every year. Not only them, some other good teams, but I mean, when somebody's a state champ and perennially a great team, Coach Prejean does a great job. You should be excited. You get to measure yourself up against the best, year in and year out, and because that's what you want to be, right? That's the goal, is to flip that, and you become a guy that everybody's looking forward to playing. But you also have Ascension, that I expect to be really good. And then we have to play Westminster Opelousas, which is, they're a good football team, and Coach Porter does a really good job. I expect them to be probably even better than they were last year, I would think. I don't think they lost a ton. We play Albany week 1, which is another bigger school. There's, even like the East Bows and the Ventons, those are physical teams, and so we got to be ready to play week in and week out, and then you got to survive, with a smaller roster. It's adjusting practices and things like that to be able to get through the season healthy. But just on the schedule, you look at the big games. Obviously, like you always look at the 3 that you lost last year, right? You look at Westminster Opelousas, you look at Ascension, you look at VC. Those are the 3 that you lost, and so you want to try to steal 1 or 2 of those, and you got to beat everybody that you beat last year. So just a numbers game,
Yeah. How about the matchup with Westminster? How great is that for both communities and schools, knowing that that game came into play a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's for the first time being able to do it, and it's definitely unique. But look, at the end of the day, it's football. And I say this in the most respectful way possible, but their players want to beat our players, and our players want to beat them. And football is a game that it's a competitive game, and you're trying to go beat the other team. And Coach Porter wants to beat us, and I want to beat them. And so there's some challenges with that. But I thought it was a pretty awesome night. I thought it was fun. I thought the game was extremely competitive. I thought that we had our opportunities. And we just didn't make plays, and they did a good job. But for the school, I thought it was a cool moment, and looking forward to doing it again this year.
Division 4 select, in your opinion, is it wide open this year?
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize how good Division 4 select was. Hadn't, and not really anything else. I'm sure a lot of coaches are the same way. Whenever you're locked into, like, Division 1 select is a beast. So I was stuck up there, and that was my focus. But when I came down here, I started called Coach McCullough, and I was like, man, I think this is the second best. I mean, I still think Division 1 select is probably the toughest, but I thought this was the second toughest division in football. I thought there were 20 teams. I didn't think anybody who got a first round. There's very few first round games last year that were just gimme games, and I thought that anybody we were going to draw in the first round was going to be tough. I mean, Opelousas Catholic as a 16 seed or whatever they were. You know what I mean? Something like that. I don't remember. We were 18 seed at 7-3. You know,
15-18 matchup.
yeah, I think 15-18. So it's a pretty good 15-18 matchup. You know,
Correct.
so there's a lot of parity, and there's you know, so and you know, when you just don't know. You know, with last year you had Dartez and that kind of thing, so you knew VC was gonna, you know, you're not really sure what, Virginia Castle's gonna be good, but can they go win it again? You know, do they have that kind of team? You know, and just all the other powerhouses that we have, I think it's wide open. You know, I really do.
Coach, what about any new upgrades in the works, or any booster club here, or fundraisers? Anything that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. We started last year. We started Charger Athletic Foundation. We were able to raise over $250,000 through that foundation. You know, we were able to. You know, when I got here, we didn't really have a weight room. You know, we were able to build a weight room. We were able to install a lot of things that we didn't have. You know, batting cages, just different things on our facility. That we weren't able to have. So definitely the Charger Athletic Foundation was the big thing that we were able to create year one. The big news though is that our board just announced that you know, we're in the process of searching for and trying to purchase some land for expansion, and also a brand new athletic complex that includes football stadium, baseball stadium, softball, tennis, and also eventually a standalone high school building, you know. So that was really exciting, because I do think that this school is a really great place, and when you match that with the facilities, I think you're going to see some pretty good growth that's going to lead this school. And look, I'll be honest with you, I don't just say this, I think within 5 years, I think that this school is going to be in the discussion for state championships year in and year out.
Okay. So 2025, where are we playing home games? Same location, or something's changed this year?
Yeah, last year we played at Acadiana. This year, LPSS made a ruling that no private school or charter school could rent their facilities.
Wow.
Yeah, so I called Coach Trev Falk at Lafayette Renaissance.
Yeah, I'm listening.
And talked to him, and he said, yeah, Coach, sure. So we're actually going to play our home games at Lafayette Renaissance High School, and thank you to Coach Trev and their AD, Ms. Hanson. They've been working with us, and so we're going to play our home games there, you know, this year, and then, you know, hopefully in the near future we playing in Charter Stadium somewhere, and it's going to be an exciting time. But yeah, this year we'll play at Larkin.
Okay. So with home games there, and having to balance also their home games, how many Thursdays did we wind up on the schedule with?
I think we got 3 this year, which is not as bad as it could have been. I think it worked out pretty good. I want to say we have 3 of them. I have to check to confirm if it's 3 or 4, but I think we got 3 Thursday games. That was the thing that I had to get used to. You know, Thursdays are a weird.
You know the date?
I can tell you. I can probably tell you.
I know you got to also work with their home games.
Yeah, I got to work with theirs. I'd have to look at, if you want to pull your.
While you're talking, I'll look.
Yeah, you can maybe pull your. I don't know which one of those are Thursdays and which ones are Fridays. You have to look at the dates, I guess. But yeah, balancing the Thursday games we had to play last year. I think we had about 4 or 5, and the practice schedule and those things were pretty difficult. So I think we might have 4 this year, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it's something we've been able to manage, and I think we'll be better in year 2, kind of managing that Thursday schedule.
It looks like week 1, y'all kick
Yeah,
off.
week 1 we kick off on a Thursday.
Albany right here at home.
Yep.
Okay, and then Hamilton Christian down the road, on the road, and then I can't find the other one.
It might just be 2, to be honest with you.
2.
It might only be 2, and I think it might be one that is, you know, it might be somewhere else. But I do know those 2 are my 2 home ones. But look, I'm hoping that we don't have as many, because it's hard to practice. You know, Thursdays they're harder to practice. You know, and get prepared. You gotta kind of fast forward everything. You know, but Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We think it's going to be a big year, and our kids have bought in. And look, the difference this year is that last year they weren't sure if they could win. This year they expect to win, and that's a big deal. So we're excited that that part of the culture has been able to. Now they got to go do it, though. That's going to be the next thing. They have to go out there and execute and do that. But at least the expectations there, and they've worked extremely hard. Like really, I've been around a lot of off seasons, and as a whole, I don't know if I've been a part of a team that's worked harder to get bigger, faster, stronger. Just because I think last year going through the season, they saw the deficiencies that they had in that area, and to change that.
Success a year ago. How do you teach mental toughness to players who haven't seen much success in their career?
Yeah, we preach that a lot, because you're doing a lot of first here, right? A lot of first wins, first article, first interview, all these things are first to these guys. So it's easy to start thinking that you've done something. What helped us in this offseason balance that is that loss last year to Opus Catholic. I honestly think it was a blessing. If I could go back, I'd rather win it than lose it, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But what we learned from that as a team is something that I could never have taught them. Right? They needed that experience to learn that. And, so they learned that on their own. So it's been a little easier because it's easier for me to humble them, whenever they start to think that they're a little better than they are. And look, we're going to face some teams that they know that, we're not good enough. Most teams are not, but we're just not good enough just to show up. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I think they know that now. And I think the difference is going to be at halftime now. It's going to be easy for me to go back to that time and say, remember when, and then hopefully they don't allow it to happen again,
Coach, how do you celebrate small wins to keep morale and focus high?
Yeah, you have to. When your ultimate goal is to win the whole thing, and that's a term I've used for a long time. You're like, hey, you want to win the whole thing. But ultimately, that doesn't happen a lot, And so you have to celebrate. We use the weight room, obviously, the getting stronger, those small victories for maxes and getting faster times and those things. But even good practices, and then just enjoying the process, right? We preach process a lot, You can, if you're just worried about the outcome and those kind of things, it's going to be tough because you're going to lose a lot, and it's going to be. But if you got to enjoy the process, enjoy being with your teammates, enjoy showing up here on Saturdays, enjoy showing up, working out. There was the cool thing last year. After the season, after we lost, there was a sadness, and there was you could see a morale that kind of, because they wanted to still be doing it, right? They had never lost that before, and it was probably the hardest thing they had ever gone through. They had never gone through a full football season and that. But when they lost it, they wanted it back, right? They wish they could have that back, and that was the coolest thing. But you have to have constant, like you said, just small wins to be able to keep them motivated.
At practice, are you more of a coach who likes high intensity reps or longer teaching periods?
It's got to be a good combination. Our drill work is high intensity, right? Anytime we're doing drill work, we're trying to be pretty focused on being explosive, doing it fast, because you're not going to build good muscle memory if you're doing technique and you're doing it slowly, right? So we're trying to develop good muscle memory and do the things. Obviously, we're going to teach them in those moments whenever they're not using the technique correctly. So there's some teaching that goes on with that. Now, when we get to team periods, the thing I've had to learn here is like, our inside is pretty intense, where that's just our inside guys going at it, just all run plays. We do that every day, Monday through Wednesday. And so those are pretty intense. But when we get to our team period, it's a little bit slower, which is a little thing. It's something I had to kind of do a little differently here because we have so many guys going both ways. If we were super intense for 13 weeks, then by week 10 we wouldn't have any players left. Yeah. So that's why we can be a little more intense in drill work, because we don't have to worry about the injuries as much. When we get together and we're banging around in team, it's a little more, where we can teach more, let them catch their breath more. That way every rep and every play that we're trying to run can be full speed.
How do you get your players to understand not just what to do, but why they are doing it?
Yeah, that's what good coaching is, right? I mean, I think that's what makes that separates coaches. You could be the greatest coach in the world if your player doesn't understand it. It doesn't matter, right? You could know the best team and that kind of thing, and that's what's so cool about what we do offensively. I think is that it's simple, but yet it's you have to be precise. You have to really know what you're doing. Assignment-based football up front, especially the linemen, I think that people forget how much that they have to know. Every single snap, guys moving around, those kind of things. It's hard to make those adjustments. But that's what's so good about our coaches. They've done a really good job at really breaking down, what we're doing. And then if somebody knows why we're doing something, then in the moment in the game, whenever something changes, they could be like, okay, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. That doesn't match up. So, it's super important for them to understand why. So then they can make adjustments. We're not on the field with them, so they got to see when it's time to make adjustments.
How much freedom does your players have to make those adjustments on the field?
Oh, 100%, right? I trust our linebackers to get us lined up. Our free safety has to get our secondary lined up. But at the end of the day, we teach them and we watch so much film, and I feel pretty comfortable that they know how they're supposed to be lined up. But they're on the field and they see it, and if I want them to have the confidence to know that if they trust their study and they trust what we've told them, and they get in a situation where they can, have an advantage by getting us in a different setup or a different play or whatever it might be. But I give them 100% ability to do those things. Now, obviously, not changing plays a bunch up front, offensively, but the linemen have the autonomy to make different calls and set up blocking schemes a little differently every play.
How do you avoid over-adjusting and just stick to your identity?
Yeah, we don't. The good thing is adjustments in our offense are pretty small. Meaning, I learned this from Coach Davis a long time ago. There's always a counter to what the defense is doing, right? And when a defense is giving you, they're taking away something, they're giving you something else, right? And it took me a long time to be able to find those things, so we don't. The thing is, we don't have to adjust, our scheme. All we have to do is adjust our play calling a little bit, right, to attack the deficiency in the defense. And now the really good defenses can adjust to that, and then it's a chess game the entire game, But we don't ever change what we do, right? We're not gonna just start throwing the ball because we're having trouble running it. We're gonna try to attack. If we see something open in the passing game, then we'll do that. But we would do that whether or not we've been able to run the football or not. If we see something open in the passing game, we're gonna attack it. Something to run a game, we're gonna attack it. But we just do what we do and try to do it well. And we don't try to worry about making too many adjustments. Now you always have to make some in-game adjustments, but not too much.
How do you like your locker rooms before a game, and how do you go about addressing the halftime locker room?
Yeah, before the games, I kind of give them some freedom. The only thing I make sure they're not running around acting stupid. I don't want them. I've had teams before where you see a basketball, they playing basketball, guys playing basketball, or whatever it is. I want them to be pretty locked in. Some guys like to walk around, like Ethan said earlier. He likes to walk around before the games, kind of get some amped up. Some guys like to just relax. We keep them in the gym. They'll be in here before games. Some of them in the locker room. Some of them just out here in the bleachers or whatever it is. Some of them coming in, they watch some film and that kind of thing. So as long as they aren't doing anything stupid, each player is going to have his own kind of pregame ritual, and we don't try to force that on them. Locker room, I just want to be focused. The worst thing is whenever just let them know there's 2 quarters left to play regardless, whether you win them or lose them. You got 2 quarters left to play.
Something like you meet with coaches before you go in?
Yes. So we'll meet with I'll meet with the because last year I ended up being kind of like a de facto offensive and defensive coordinator. We had the defensive guy call the plays, but I had to do a lot more defense at a smaller school, whereas before you just have a whole defensive staff. Yeah. So I would meet with the offensive guy first, Coach Coy. I meet with him. We would look at some things and say, okay, just go talk with he would go maybe talk with the lineman, talk about maybe some blocking adjustments and things that we need to do depending on what they're doing. and then I'll talk with the defensive coach and let him do the same thing. He would go talk to his guys, and then typically I would go talk to the offense at that point. But a lot of times our team is together because there's so many offense and defensive guys. So typically I'll speak offense when I get with them after I kind of see what's going on. We'll talk with the offense first, and then after that we'll talk about defense, and then get them hydrated and get them ready to get back to go.
You said that you had some new faces in the coaching staff that never coached before, but they know they played in. So let's talk about that. The communication on the sideline during a game, making sure everyone was on the same page. How difficult was going through something like that?
Yeah, I mean, this first year was, I'll be honest, it was tough. I mean, the game was moving extremely fast for those guys. They knew the game, but they had never coached a high school game before, right? So in-game adjustments are really, like, a lot of young coaches get caught watching the game, right? They just watch, the game's going on, and they just get caught watching it. And so the ability to make adjustments is you have to really break down and be able to it's almost like film, like live film, right? You got to really kind of break it down. And then you can make adjustments off of that. So that was a big thing this year because it was moving extremely fast for those guys. And so, but as we got towards the end of the year, they got better and better. So I'm excited about just going into year 2 with those guys. Now they know what a Friday night feels like. They know the expectations. You don't win games on Friday nights. You win them, Saturday through, Thursday, and so I think they understand that now. And that's a big deal, the one thing that our defense last year, they had never done before going into last year, they'd never done scout cards, right? Which was a little crazy. They had never broken down the opponent's offense and really focused defensively like that. And so our guys, once they learned that and they were able to pick that up during the games, they were able to play extremely fast. So our coaches kind of saw those things as well. And so it was cool to see, and I think our coaching staff grew a ton, and our players grew a ton because of that.
How rewarding is it to see when it clicks for a player on a Friday night?
Oh man, that's why I do it. You know what I mean? It's why all coaches do it. Not just me. It's just we want to see our players, experience those moments. And I have a saying: players make plays, right? That's we're never going to win a game because of me. We're always going to win a game because of our players. They're out there, competing, and so when those guys finally get it, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch their confidence, kind of grow in that moment. They kind of grow up in that moment. So it's the coolest part of what I do is watching them kind of have that success.
Your ideal tempo of the game, how do you want it?
Get the ball first, 8-minute drive, 3 and out. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, obviously we want to control the clock, and we want long drives. Obviously, if we get a big play or something, we don't hate that. But what I've learned at the 1A level is if you can do that, because so many guys play both ways, by the time it's the fourth quarter, they are completely dead on defense, right?
It can happen. I've seen it a year ago, 38 minutes time of possession. It can happen.
Yeah, so that's the big thing is being able to control the clock allows it's hard to play defense, right? It's just hard. It takes drains you a lot more than playing offense, and so if we can keep our defense off the field as much as possible, control the clock, and it keeps offenses from being able to get in rhythm. That's the other thing that I think is undervalued is that most offenses are rhythm based, and if you don't have the ball much, then sometimes coordinators start pressing because they get the ball and they want to do something, and then make a mistake, and then so that's really what we want to do. We want to control the clock, play fast on defense, and keep doing it over, rinse and repeat.
You had a camp this year. Would you like to discuss? Is it year 1 something that we can look forward to in next year?
Yeah, we did a total athlete camp that we did here at school, and basically it was an introduction to strength and conditioning for students who were entering the 4th grade through the 7th grade. We didn't do much weight training, but we taught them some speed development. We taught them some basics of strength and conditioning, and some lifting techniques. And yeah, we'll continue to do that. The kids had a blast. We had about 25 kids, that period that would come in and out. They would come to certain sessions, and it was awesome camp, and just having the kids on campus. Look, I think that summer's nice and all that, but the kids love being with their friends. They love competing. They love to do these things, and being able to have a camp here at school, and it was pretty cool. And we'll continue to do that, and then we'll have more. We got a baseball camp. We'll have a football camp. But again, there's just so much time that you can kind of do everything.
Talk to me about the decision making for your quarterback in this style of offense and the qualities you look for someone going under center.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, we try to take a lot of that away from them as far as, we don't expect you to be, we don't have to go do everything, and you don't have to go, you just got to protect the football, that's, number one. Get the snap. It sounds funny, but I mean, getting the snap is you got to get it, and because we're hitting it fast, our backs are hitting it fast.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to get that snap and protect the football. And in the passing game, it's just understanding the reads and making good decisions, and knowing that if nothing's there, don't force it, just run the football. You're an extension of the run game when you get out there. But it's really just simplifying it, but it does move fast. But the really good quarterbacks like Caden, when I had Caden for a couple of years, they really can start kind of seeing that. Like, we gave Caden the ability to check at the lines. We get out there and we call a play, and we give him an alternate play, like, and he was able to check at the line, which really gave us an advantage. We haven't gotten there yet, obviously, but we hope to. Look, if Zay continues to do well and wins this battle, he's only a sophomore, so
right.
we have 3 years with him, and and look, we only have 4 seniors, this year, so we'll bring almost everybody back next year. It's nice to be able to have a returning starting quarterback with that as well.
How important is it for your offensive line to be disciplined and smart, not just physical?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's they got to know what to do, and they got to know who to block. They have to communicate. We don't ever shy away from communication. I don't mind if y'all got to talk and say, make a call. We're double teaming this guy, whatever. We have calls for that, but don't shy away from doing that. Communicate, and that's the key about one guy might not know in the moment, but if you communicate up front, then you're going to be fine. But yeah, you got to know what to do. You can't just be physical and go block the wrong guy, because then our backs get killed or our quarterbacks get killed. So it's a combination.
What are the core principles that make the Veer so effective?
It's fast. The way we run it is fast. I think that's what the physicality of it, is what kind of scares people. I think the ability to control the clock, is what scares people. But I think people don't realize how fast it is, like how fast it hits. And if all it takes is one mistake from a defensive end, not closing on a dive, and we're gone. It takes one safety, not forcing the sweep, and we're gonna hit the seam and we're gone. It just takes one guy to miss his assignment, and everything is so fast. It's not like a lot of offenses are slower developing, so you got some time to kind of do that. But on us, we're so fast. But I think the physicality of it, the speed of it, the suddenness of it, and the ability to kind of control the clock is what kind of puts the most fear, and concern in other coaches, is that if you don't stop it, then your offense might only see the ball 3 or 4 times the entire game.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing.
What does it mean to you personally to share the field with your son?
Yeah, it's the greatest thing. I was talking to my wife last night about it, that I don't want to look back in 4 years and not have enjoyed it. It's a special time. Waking up and going to workouts and doing those things and those rides, and now I coach him like everybody else, right? And hold him accountable, and look, he's been in weight rooms since he was at Como when he was 3 years old, right? So he loves that process and that part of it. But coaching him is the greatest blessing I have. Is just being able to experience that with him, and he was a ball boy at Acadiana forever, and he loves the game, and so it's awesome to be able to do it day in, day out.
Describe an unsung hero and who could take on that role this year.
I always like to point to the linemen when we're talking about unsung heroes. Our center, Watson Delahousie is our center. He's a senior. Our offensive linemen, they get hammered the most, right? They get that. We're the toughest on those guys, they don't get any credit, right? They don't get their name in the paper. They don't get those things, and I think that those guys, especially the center, because like I told you, the exchange from the quarterback center is so important, and I think that's undervalued. People in the stands, they don't understand how difficult that is, how fast it's going, and the quarterback's trying to get out of there, and then sometimes the center's got a nose guard on him. He's got to block that guy too, So I think the center becomes the unsung hero in our offense because of how fast everything is. Being able to get that ball up to the quarterback so we can execute quickly is extremely important.
Do you feel your players understand the why behind the X's and O's better now, going into year 2?
Absolutely, yeah. Last year, I think there was a lot of, they knew I had won a lot. They knew I came from a championship program, had won a lot of games, but it was still, until you experience it, you don't have much belief in it, and I think now they've kind of seen it, and they've understood that this is what it takes to be a successful program. There's no secret sauce to it. You got to work hard. You got to understand your offensive and defensive schemes. You got to execute. You got to play fast, and that's really it. And I think now they understand why we work so hard and why we do what we do now. Whenever last year, I think they were kind of just trusting in the process.
What will success look like for this team beyond wins and losses?
Like I told you earlier, I want, I want to pride myself in being a good example to these guys and how to be a man of God, and so how they treat their teammates, how they, are they successful in class? Do they treat their teachers with respect? Do they say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am? Are they in the office? I'm also the dean of students, so are they in my office because they've been cutting up in class? Can they go shake hands and can they take a loss right? Can they lose to somebody with class? Because football is going to end for all of them, and I just want at the end of it for them to enjoy the process. But at the end of the day, hopefully I'm able to teach them how to be competitive and be tough, but also be loving and be a man of God.
About the importance of cheer, dance, band, trainers on a Friday night in your opinion, for the success of a program?
We brought my wife's the cheer coach, so I'm a little biased, but I love cheer. Cheer and football go hand in hand, right? You don't have one without the other. And we have a great cheer program here. They go to nationals, all the time, and are highly competitive. They're actually at camp right now, so good luck to you girls. Go win it. But we don't have a band yet. I messed with our principal, Mr. Darby. Brett Darby's our principal. He came from Abbeville. He was a band instructor at Abbeville. And I tell him, how do we have a principal that's a band instructor, but we don't have a band? I tell him, I say, come on, man, you got to give me at least a drum line. He said, it can't be that hard. He said, come on. He said, it's a lot harder than you think. But those, our trainer, our athletic trainers, our managers, our filmers, the parents who help work the chains. Running a football program is tough. It's extremely tough. The moms who go pick up pregame meals and bring them and set it up. The team breakfast, we do team breakfast every game day. The speakers who come and speak to the players. The coaches' wives, who allow their husbands to be gone all the time. All those things are, we couldn't do what we do without all of those little auxiliary parts, and very thankful for those people.
Most memorable game you've ever coached?
The car game.
2023.
2023. That one that one or the state championship in 2020, because I'm gonna say 2020. Yeah, I'm gonna say the Ash game. Because of COVID, that was such a crazy year. You know, and look, we were up by a couple touchdowns and then some onside kicks, and we almost gave that thing up.
2-point conversion a year later.
And we were, you know, I was up in the box with Coach Shebo, and we're like, what's going on? You know, that was a highly memorable game. Obviously,
there for that one.
Yeah, the car game was big because it was the first time I was able to get a chance to go coach in the Superdome. You know, the state championship game was awesome. And honestly, my first win here last year against Albany. You know, your first win as a head coach is always special. But I knew how important it was, you know, for this team and this culture to create the belief that it did. So those would be probably my top four.
Okay. Your mentor in the coaching world, who would it be?
I think Ted Davidson's the best to ever do it. You know, I had the blessing to play for Ted. He was my position coach, right? At the time, I played for Willett when Coach Hanks was the head coach that period. But Coach Davidson was my offensive line coach. So I got to learn a lot of the ins and outs of how to teach offensive linemen from, I think, the best VIA offensive line coach to ever do it. So I got to learn that from him. You know, but obviously, you know, what he was able to do at Acadiana when he became the head coach, you know, him giving me a shot and hiring me at Acadiana, you know, so definitely TD, you know. And then look, I love Coach Peters. I talk to him a lot. Coach McCullough, you know, I still talk to those guys. But just from somebody I look up to is definitely Coach Davidson.
Your biggest question mark going into the year?
Quarterback play. Yeah, that's gonna be the difference. You know, I think you know, whoever ends up being the starting quarterback is going to be an unproven commodity, you know. And quarterback's tough to play, you know. And you got to have thick skin, and you got to go out there and you touch the ball every play. And, you know, so I think the quarterback play, if our quarterback play is good, I think we could have a special season, you know. If not, then, it'll be one of those seasons that'll be, you know, it's tough, you know. You got to have good quarterback play. And then we got to stay healthy. You know, just being able to. Last year we were fairly healthy. You know, David got hurt; that was a big loss. But overall, we stayed fairly healthy. But I think the quarterback play and just the health is going to be the two biggest determinants.
Which position group from now up until Beauchesne has to take the biggest leap?
Probably guys up front. You know, just because they haven't played together. You know, I mean, I think we're more talented and we're more physical, but they still got to show that they can go do it with somebody in front of them. So I think the offensive line will probably have the most to learn and the most to prove going into the season.
What is your why?
I just love this game. You know, I just really do. There's just nothing like it. There's nothing like a Friday night. You know, I love Saturday mornings. You know, I love everything about it. You know, I love the process. You know, I love being able to, you know, I have my family here with me. You know, my entire family's at this school. My wife teaches here. My daughter sitting right there. She comes here. My son is here. You know, but my family obviously is my why. But why I coach is just there's nothing that I've done in life that brings me more joy. And it's not just winning and losing, just being able to be around these group of young men, to watch them give everything they have to something, to teach them about life along the way. It's just pretty awesome.
What are you most excited for this year, and what are you most proud of from this year's group?
Proud of their work, you know, consistent work. Last year I did not have an off season, so last year I got here in the summer, right? So I only had a couple months with them. This was my first full off season, you know, and that's always you never know how teams are going to respond whenever they have to, you know, we start working in December and you know, you don't play a game again until August. So, but they have been consistently good, you know, throughout that time and have gotten tremendously stronger and tougher. And what was the other one excited about?
And what are you most excited for this season?
I just want to see if we can take the next step. You know, one, can we handle the you know, I think last year was zero expectations, right? I don't think anybody expected much of us, right? I think everything we did good was like a shock to everybody.
Okay.
I think this year, I think there are a little more expectations, right? And I'm pretty excited to see how this group handles expectations and can they go out there, because I've been part of a ton of teams that have high expectations, and so it's fun to go out there and exceed those expectations, and that's what I'm excited to see if they can do it.
What's the message to the alumni, to the community?
Just that you know, we're here. You know, we're coming, and you know, thankful for their support, and we want them to keep coming back and you know, watch us grow. You know, there's been a lot of kids, young men and women, that sacrificed. Maybe that's a tough word, but it's probably the right word. That sacrificed, you know, to start this school up. You know, when this school was nothing. You know, when this school had, you know, 20 kids in the high school or whatever it was, 50 kids. You know, there's a lot of kids that sacrificed, and parents, right, that sacrificed that, you know, high school experience, so that we could be sitting in this building. I remember when the building that we're sitting in was a dream, right? Having a gym here was, you know, it was just, couldn't believe that this could happen. And here we are having an interview after our first season at LHSA. It's pretty cool, and so just thankful to them, all of their hard work and dedication to this place. Appreciative of their support of me. You know, I couldn't do it without all the support, not just donor support that we've had a tremendous amount of, but just the you know, the text messages, the emails, the phone calls of support. I really appreciate it.
Close us out today with the quote of the day.
One of the things we tell our players is, you know, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And we're not always going to be the most talented team. You know, it's just not the way it is. And I don't shy away from that. You know, I don't try to tell our players and sell them a dream that we're the most talented team in Division IV select, right? But what I can tell them, and what we do preach, is that you can always be the hardest working team, regardless of your talent. So that's what was on our weight. That's on our weight in our weight room today was, you know, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, head football coach of Westminster Lafayette Chargers, Coach Kent Gable. What an honor it was to sit here and talk to you today. Thank you for opening your doors.
Thank you for having us, man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, home games this year. This team will be playing at Lafayette Renaissance Charter, their stadium. You can catch these guys' first glimpse of Charger football against Beauchamp at their field, August 22nd. Jamboree the following week will be at Westminster and Opelousas against Hamilton Christian. First game that day or second game that day at 6 o'clock. So all those times will be put out in the next coming month. But football is around the corner, Coach. Y'all keep getting after it, and definitely gained a big fan today, and I hope we can keep this relationship going for years to come.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
man.